Yo, what's good, guys? It's Nath. I'm just here giving one of my first of many market updates to come. I've decided to capitalize on making videos, and I thought maybe I'll just share my view so it's not just kept to myself and in my journal. Also, guys, the way I trade is very simple. I'm order blocks, I'm ranges, I do simple lines. I make it simple, I make it easy. I don't want to overcomplicate it with, a bunch of macro information, a bunch of bullshit, basically. I like to keep it easy and use what I see on the chart as opposed to, outside noise. I just feel like that works best for me. And if if it works for you, then feel free. So, looking at Bitcoin, this is sort of the main elephant in the room here, really. I'm only really going to cover majors like Sol, ETH, BTC, really, and then maybe we'll delve into alts. But while BTC's trading like this, I'm not too interested in trading alts, to be honest. Besides Sol and ETH, solely because Bitcoin is just so volatile the past few days. It's been swinging 2-3% either way. It's not worth my time to try and catch these moves on alts on such a low time frame, because it's just so volatile, and you're swinging like 10-20% either way. It's just not worth my time, really. So Bitcoin, the big elephant in the room for me on lower time frames is this low right here. So that area, I just feel like that needs to hold. Like, obviously on a higher time frame, I feel like you have a lot more room to work with. You can sort of long anything that's in or around this box on a higher time frame, So this weekly order block we've got here, just long anything within that, basically. So you can see we've tapped it twice. We've had a good reaction from it, and it's sort of kept this weekly level right here. So this low is very key also, which is also the 107.5 level I was talking about. So I feel like as long as we're getting strong reactions off this order block, and we're kind of, staying around this 107 area, and we hold and reclaim on a weekly, I feel like we're good. I feel like we maybe push to new highs, alts push up with it, maybe ETH makes a new all-time high, who knows, but so far I'm bullish. Should we show some more weakness, keep rejecting from this weekly range and maybe fall deeper into this order block, I'd reconsider my positions. Anything under 100k is a big no-go. You do not want to see sub 100k. That's like, could be Jova type of situation. So I feel like for the meantime, anything you can get on this low here, like this kind of area, is like optimal for your lower time frame longs, etc., etc. But if you're trying to take a longer swing on like a higher time frame, this order block's your best friend. Anything in this area, I feel like you take, you bid, and then if it falls under, then it's essentially over. There's not really much left in it. It could be a massive fake out. We dip slightly under the order block. That could happen. We could do something like this, reclaim like this area, and then shoot back up. Who knows? I'm just a fucking guy guessing at the end of the day, as is everyone else. So that's my main look on Bitcoin, really, is I'd like this 107.5 area to hold and stay held on a higher time frame. And on lower time frames, I feel like if you're itching for a setup, you're itching for a trade, you take that. It's the simplest setup you're going to get, really. So then I'd say this is probably your setup. Anything around this area, honestly, you could probably even take it here. You stop below this recent low here. You can target this order block here on the 12-hour. You can target this high, but then you're pushing to all-time highs, So basically, if this level holds, you're good, as far as I'm concerned. I'd see no issue with it. I do not think we're going into a bear market, as Twitter seems to think. After every 2% move, it's fucking pointless. It's draining. Just thinking this doom all the time, and thinking, oh, it's over. You're never going to make money again. Like, shut the fuck up. There's endless money to make, whether it's a bear market, bull market. There's always money to be made. There's a bull market somewhere, whether it's a fucking liquid altcoin or anything. There's money to be made everywhere. So worst case scenario, BTC does fall under 100k. There's no point in just quitting after that. There's money to be made everywhere. It's pointless to just give up. So that's my main outlook on BTC. Basically anything above the order block and this low is good. It's fine by me. So we'll move on to Sol. To be honest, I've not really been looking at Sol the past month or two, I'll be honest. I've not really had much interest in trading it. I've been more so into BTC, ETH, and all sorts of other altcoins that have more so new launches like Asta, XPL, which we will not talk about. Yeah, and there's a few others. So with Sol, it's kind of hard to want to stab along here solely because on higher time frame there's nothing really. You're kind of just holding on to air right now. Maybe you get something like 120s, but that's such a big drop that I don't think you would get unless BTC did really take a tumble. Like maybe, you know, deep within the order block or maybe even slightly lower. But I just don't see 120s coming anytime soon, to be honest. So with Sol, I don't know. I don't really trade it like a lot, to be honest. I'm more interested in Sol Eco, you know, Sol on chain. That's kind of, you know, where I came up from, where I made a lot of my money mid 2024. That's sort of where I started up from. So I'm well versed in that kind of area, but trading Sol as a coin on its own, I have no idea. So a big elephant in the room, a quite outstanding thing is this low here, right? So we had this low here. What was this? This was December. So this was Christmas last year. It's been nearly a full year since this low was created. So you see, we came up. I think this was all time. Was this a Trump? Was this when Trump dropped? Yeah, I think Trump coin dropped here. Giga topped us forever. Okay. So we came down, we came to this low, had a slight reaction, boom, straight under. And you can see we tried to reclaim again, boom, rejected. Okay. So, I mean, if you were around during this time, obviously it's a very hindsight trade. If you're around, that's your short, you know, that's the easiest short of your lifetime. That rejection is just free. And then the same again, you know, we had a bit of chopped around here, like for start of this year. So look, so we've taken this, tried to reclaim, boom, no, rejected hard. Sort of reclaim there, but you know, I wouldn't really be like rushing to get into a long here. And then we rejected straight back down. You know, this was just chop, reclaim. Here, you know, you probably see a lot of people get long. This is probably why this flushed back down under that low, down to here. Came back, faked out the low, and then reclaimed again. But now you see, we're talking the present now. You know, there's no point in talking about the hindsight. It's fucking bullshit. You know, you should have traded it at the time. There's no point in going back and reminiscing. This low here is very important. Okay, so you have this double tap here, and you have this here. See, this was I believe this was the liquidation wick. Am I right? Yeah, this is the big cascade. You know, we went to 102k and it was fucking over. Also like minus 90%. You know. This area I think is so key now. Obviously, it is kind of. I don't really have much interest in trading Sol, to be honest. I'm also BTC focused, ETH focused, because it's just what I prefer. You know, this is what trading is. You know, it's preference. I can't tell you what to trade. You can't tell me what to trade. It's all up to you and what you want to do. Everyone has a separate system. Okay. So with Sol, if I was really desperate for a trade, which I'm not, I don't really care. I'd look for something like around the 170 area. Should you get it, like 170s, 175, this kind of area. Worst case, you get something along the lines of this, and you take out this area. But I don't know. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Like unless BTC really does shit the bed. So I think for now, if you're desperate for a trade, you take something around 175 area. You know, target these highs here, 230s, 240s, and so on. But this is just a higher time frame point of view. You know, like if we want to crunch down to like lower time frame. Well, I mean, it's still showing the same area. You know, we've had a good reaction of it like several times. Look, here, reacted nice, bounced what, like 20% or whatever? I don't know, something like that. Same again here, boom, touch that low, back up. Same again here, boom, touch that low, bounce back up, good reaction. Same again here, boom, not as much the reaction, but, you know, it still could happen. So realistically, if I really, really was desperate to trade Sol, I'd do something like this, like maybe like this area here, this low. If you get it, ideally you stop just under that low and then target what, like the highs. Like I don't think these highs at 211 are safe. I think if they even get remotely reclaimed or close to, we just teleport to 230s. So you could take something like that. You know, that's a 5-hour trade right there. You can't complain. You know, there's minimal risk and your upside is essentially just generational. I can't lie. So if I was to take something on Sol, like I was desperate to, that would be it. But I just don't really care for it right now. You know, I think a lot of, like, if I were to be more Sol focused, I'd more so focus on chain. Do you know what? Actually, I'm going to get into this. We're going to do a little bit of a rant here. Sol on chain. there is a big misconception that we are still in like the 2024, like end of 2023 phase where you can just bag hold memes and make fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars. No, it doesn't work like that anymore. You know, I've been there. I've made a lot of money off meme coins. You know, bag holding back in the time was good. It was actually beneficial. But now I feel like there is still money to be made in meme coins, but it's very, you know, it's very rotational. You shouldn't be looking to bag hold as we were, you know, with your whiffs, your FWOG, your PopCat, those kind of coins. You don't want to be bag holding newer coins, let's say. So let's say Elon Musk talks about some bullshit, like some gay squirrel, let's say, for example, again, and it skyrockets. It goes to 10 mil on chain, for example, in like a day. Take fucking profit. Don't bag hold that shit. No matter what KOL or what person tells you, oh, bag hold this, it's going to 100 mil. Bag hold this, it's going to 1 billion. Tell them to shut the fuck up. Call them a fucking retard. Call them out. You know, take your money. Don't let yourself get brainwashed by these people. It's pointless, right? You're going to end up at zero. That's just how it works, right? Meme coins are not a long-term thing anymore, as it used to be. You know, you used to be able to hold for months, make a good amount of money, cash out as you went up on, and that was it. You know, like we had coins run to billions. Like we went to 4 billion. It's a dog with a fucking hat, and it went to $4 billion. Like let's get real here, okay? If you're not taking profit there, what the fuck are you doing? It had every listing under the sun. Okay, so back on track. Let's talk about ETH now. So Ethereum, where was I looking? I was just looking at this here. We have a big problem right at this area. So we can see very clearly this high, reaction, straight back down. Same kind of area, made a slightly higher high, reaction back down. Here, again, similar area, reaction back down. Here, again, similar area, reaction back down. So what do we know here? There's clearly a big fucking seller at this point, which is around the 5K area. So look, 4.7K, that was literally on the cusp of 5K. This area is a very well-defended area by the bears. Do I know why? No, because I'm not a gay bear, unfortunately. Fortunately, should I say. So, what would I be looking for? I'm glad you asked. To be honest, not actually. Changed my mind. There is something very good looking on here, I must say. So, this 3-day order block before the big move up. This was, when was this? Oh, this was only July. Okay. So this is a key area. This is a very, very key area, as shown by these big, disgusting gay wigs. Okay. So it's the same again. You know, it's the same as literally the same as the Bitcoin situation on the weekly. That order block is what you want, really. If that holds, you're fine. Anything under that, maybe not so fine, you know, but I think for now, structurally, ETH, very good. There's no reason to short here. I don't see any kind of bearish layup, to be honest. It's pointless. We're actually in this order block now, so this is a weekly order block. So if I was desperate for a trade, which I'm not, and I don't really care, to be honest, I don't think you should be desperate for a trade every day, as, you know, there's not always... it's not always a favorable setup every single day, you know. As much as you may want to look for a favorable setup, and you may think it's a favorable setup, it's probably not, right? I feel like a lot of my better trades have come from higher time frame trades where you can just, you know, punt size, wait, and then, you know, whatever happens, and your downside is very minimal because, you know, your invalidation is very clearly marked out on these levels. Look, like anything under here, like 3,300 is a big no-go. Okay, so ETH here, I think looks very good. You know, like even that is just a sensational work. Even on a liquidation cascade, it still holds that weekly order block. Who's behind this? Maybe a Chinese man. Who knows? You know, it could be fucking anyone. But at the end of the day, do I care? No, I'm here to make money. I'm here to trade the chart. I'm not here to speculate about who's moving the markets and all this bullshit, okay? It's pointless. Once you realize the market's a big scam, you'll realize that you've got nothing to worry about. Once you know everything is essentially a scam, you're good, right? You've got to trade what you see, not what you think. Right. Anything in this area, I think, is a bid. You know, personally, I'd bid spot if, like, now. Like, I'd slowly start filling maybe, like, filling like here, whatever, you know, just layer your bids within this order block, basically. And, you know, if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If you only get partially filled, who cares? You know, you're still in the trade. But this is just the key area, you know, like under this, you're in trouble. I think as long as you're in this area and this area holds and we reclaim, that's cool. You know, you could do something like this. Literally, you could fill that liquidation wick, go straight back up. You know, anything could happen. But structurally, very bullish. You know, you're still resting on these highs, which you can't complain about. So, you know, like, unless you really get a deep close with back within this kind of range here, this whole kind of area, you're fine. I think you're absolutely chilling. You know, you can stay in your bags, you can do whatever, but do not fucking short. It's pointless. It's pointless looking at the owling and go, oh my god, there's a bear divergence. Who gives a fuck? I can't lie, that's a clean setup because that SFP was fucking, you know, that's kind of asking for it. But that's not the point, you know. There's no point in getting caught up in a lower time frame and basing your long time frame bias on a lower time frame move. It's pointless, okay? We've all been there, we've all done it, we've all made these FOMO retarded trades. It happens, okay? You just got to learn from it and you got to move on. So maybe in the next video, I'm going to go over a few more alts and handpick a few. Should majors really not make much difference and just kind of chop around and see if there's any gems available for when BTC makes its next leg up. You know, I'm still very camp bullish. You know, I still believe that we still got one more push up in this bull run. And then, you know, maybe top end of this year, top like very early next year. I'm fine with that, you know. Whether you made the amount of money you had in mind or not, you should be fine with that. You know, even if you made money, you should be fine with that. If you had a goal of, let's say, 100K, you had a goal of $1 million, you didn't make it, oh well, you know, shit happens. You shouldn't try and force a trade to get your target amount. I think that might be the worst thing you could do, and you're going to end up with zero money left, okay? So that's pretty much all I've got to cover today. Like, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, you know, maybe leave a comment if you want any coins covered. I might cover a few and grab a few from the comments. But anyways, guys, have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll probably be uploading maybe in about 2 days time or so. You know, let's see how the market goes and let's see if I find any gems and I'll let you guys know. All right, peace.